The Panthers defeat the Lightning and get a big 4-point swing as they are currently tied at the top of the Atlantic Division. And it was a game where the Panthers special teams came to play.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, March 4th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, and if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to press that like button down below. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here on another edition of the show, coming to you just over an hour after the Florida Panthers defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 2-1, where Barkov got 2 goals. Penalty kill went 7 for 7 on the evening. Sergei Bobrovsky with another outstanding performance. The Tampa Bay Lightning cut it to 1 in the third period, and the Panthers hung on to win 2-1 and a big swing in the Atlantic Division for the second place spot. As right now, with one matchup left against the Tampa Bay Lightning, they've created a 5-point differential with Tampa Bay having 2 games in hand. And here to recap this 2-1 Panthers win over the Tampa Bay Lightning, he is South Florida native, knows quite a lot about his hockey, and also part of the Locked On family, the host of Locked On Syracuse, Jackson Holzer. Jackson, welcome back. And we are recapping a win, my friend.
Also, let's go Sharks.
Yes, absolutely.
How about that? Let's go Sharks. Never doubt those Sharks. They're very pesky. Beating the Leafs in a shootout. You know, I texted my friends before the shootout, Armando. They're 0 for 4 in shootouts this year. So they're due. And lo and behold, I love the Sharks.
Yeah. The night that we needed the Sharks to get a dub here. And hey, also for the Panthers, they now own the regulation win tiebreaker over the Toronto Maple Leafs by one win for them. So that's another thing to keep an eye on for the Panthers. Now 79 points, both of them, with the Toronto Maple Leafs having 1 game in hand. So Panthers are well on their way to clinching home ice for at least round 1. But a defensive clinic for the Panthers filled with special teams, 10 power plays combined between the two teams, between the Panthers and the Lightning. And really, the Panthers, it took a little while for them to really get out of the neutral zone, out of their own zone cleanly, and get some speed into the neutral zone. And this is thinking that with the debut of Seth Jones for the Florida Panthers here on Monday night. And I mean, you think about for the Panthers, even at times when they did get through the Tampa Bay defense, it looked like that they were getting lanes open, but then how well Tampa Bay was able to close the gap. And really, at the start of the second period, it was really that the Panthers really shifting the tide and manifesting into those 2 goals by Aleksander Barkov in the second period. One off an outstanding move off of Braden Point and then using Hedman as a screen. And the other one, think about this. Mackie Samoskevich on power play 1, quickly getting that puck to Aleksander Barkov while the Tampa Bay Lightning were not necessarily tight in their own end, 6 seconds off the draw on the power play, and then beats Vasilevsky on the glove side. So just the way the Panthers were able to just control play as the games go on continuously, this was another example of that.
I thought this was a game between 2 of maybe the 3 or 4 best teams in the National Hockey League. I don't really care what the points say. I know what my eyes say. These are 2 of the best 4 teams in the National Hockey League. And I noticed that it was really difficult to move through the neutral zone, and that when the Panthers were able to generate their rush chances, it came off Tampa Bay mistakes in the offensive end. That's how Florida was able to generate those rush chances. It was not from Tampa not playing good system. It was they screwed up maybe at their own blue line or something like that. And then all of a sudden, here come the Panthers on the counterattack the other way. But on that Barkov goal, these games, it's the really little things.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a Four Nations game where
Yeah.
one tiny mistake, one fundamental play changes the game. And if you watch back on that first Barkov goal, you'll notice that Braden Point breaks a rule in hockey. You want to stay on the defensive side of the puck. And he overcommits to Barkov, playing in the middle of him, allowing Barkov to cut towards the middle. See, defensive side of the puck, for those that may not know, means you want to stay between your man and the net. It's
Mm-hmm.
that. Don't let him go to the middle of the ice. Well, he allows him to go to the middle of the ice because Barkov is cheeky. And lo and behold, he realizes, I got a shooting lane. And he just lets it go and he rips it by Vasilevsky. It's those little tiny mistakes in a game like this that separate a winner and a loser.
Yeah, and then I can't necessarily do the best impersonation of it here on the show, but think the positioning of the hips and the shoulders to the boards, where it's like a 45-degree angle going to it, and then that allowed Barkov to spin around and get that lane to the net for him. But also think about like I mentioned at the top, 7 for 7 on the penalty kill, including a big kill, a kill with 9 seconds left for the Panthers to up their stats there. But really, the 2-on-1 chances for the Panthers when, like you said, off the Tampa Bay mistakes, that Reinhart and Barkov just continuing with their speed and just consistently getting in the passing lanes for them. And really the middle of the ice was really how the Panthers really protected, and really on those 2-on-1 chances. I mean, Barkov hitting the post on one, and then a little sauce for Reinhart on another to connect to Barkov. So just consistently using crossing routes there when they gain the offensive zone. That's another thing that just created so much confusion for the opposition.
Of course, and as far as their defense in the neutral zone, it was perfect, like nearly perfect. I don't remember a lot of mistakes that Florida made in their neutral zone. And how many odd man rushes did they give up this game? Do you have it in front of you? Because I counted one odd man rush the entire game that Florida gave up.
Don't have it right. I don't have it right here, but yeah, I don't recall quite a lot of them. I do remember a turnover that Seth Jones committed. That resulted actually in a Niko Mikkola a penalty actually on a cross check.
Yes, that was it. That was the one play he made a bad pinch.
Yeah,
he pinched on the strong side, which is a big no as a defenseman. That is as someone who played defense growing up, you don't pinch on the strong side unless you 100% know that you have support behind you. Jones, he just made the wrong read. It happens. You see everyone around the National Hockey League do it. Don't panic. He was still terrific in this game. He made one mistake. It leads to a 2-on-1 the other end, and Niko Mikkola takes a penalty. So that was it. At one time. The other time, I guess Tampa had another odd man rush when Barkov just yeeted the puck in the middle of the ice with 2 minutes to go in the game on a power play. And, Bob stands tall on a breakaway. Other than that, that's it. It was a very clean game by the Panthers tonight. 5-on-5 or on the power play.
Yeah, and for Niko Mikkola, even we saw how outstanding his reach was when he turned the puck over at the blue line, and then it looked like that Nikita Kucherov was going to go on a breakaway. He still stays with the play and is like, nope, you're not getting a rush chance there, my friend. Nothing for you. And to think that also how seriously both teams took this game after what happened last go around with the knee-on-knee hit, you knew that they were about business, knowing that how much of a big swing this was for them. So also that was really important, that just, hey, this is about just focusing on the game at hand for both of these teams. And for the Panthers here, just how everyone would, the amount of chances that we saw Tampa Bay almost convert, which you look at Eetu Luostarinen clearing the puck after Cirelli hit the crossbar, and then right there you think about Sergei Bobrovsky losing the stick, and then a feed from Chaffee to Gensel is stopped by the stick as well. And then even on a penalty that Eetu committed with the high stick on Jake Gensel, the shot was stopped by his
helmet. He hit him in the head.
I'm
thinking they're going to score because he has the whole top of the net open. And I'm like, wait, how did that not go in? I watched the replay. He hits Gensel in the face. So not only does he get high sticked in the face and there's blood, he also gets hit in the helmet with his own teammate's shot. I mean, it was a pretty rough night for Gensel, or a pretty rough shift, I should say, for Gensel there.
Yeah, and Gensel also had the broken stick at the end on the penalty when it was the 6-on-4 at the very end, and the crashing in the net, they still were not able to get through, and just close calls, but team stayed tight. They won a lot of their battles. Sergei Bobrovsky had a good line of sight for a lot of the shots against, and it results once again in this 2-1 win for the Panthers here. But we're gonna transition over to segment number 2, where we're gonna discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and the moment where we knew the game was won. We're gonna discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you guys all about wonderful pistachios. And are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into the good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snacks for busy days, whether it's snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need for a protein boost. They're always my go-to. Get snacking and cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Back on this Tuesday, March 4th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day, as the Florida Panthers defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 2-1 on Monday night in the third of 4 matchups between the two teams. The last one will come in game 82. And who knows what that game upcoming will be and what it'll mean for both teams. And Jackson, let's talk about our 3 stars of the game for this one. Number 3 star of the game for me, Gustav Forsling. And it says 4 total blocks, but I felt like it was more than that, at least from the eye test. And then 2 key blocks on one shift where he was limping to the bench, and then one of them, a key block as the Lightning were gaining the zone, and just with less than 5 minutes left, able to draw a holding of the stick penalty that didn't necessarily end the game right there, but really was a key moment for this one for the Panthers, and just still getting more of that offensive zone time, taking the time away from the Lightning there, and that was a very key moment in the game. Number 2 star for me, Sergei Bobrovsky. 2 goals or less now in 8 of his last 10 games now for Bobrovsky. And to think that now what's going to be life, we thought for so long what life was going to be for past Sergei Bobrovsky with his current contract, and now to think that he hasn't shown signs of slowing down. Big save after big save. We mentioned the stick, and I got another save to talk about for him later in this segment. You'll know why. But just Sergei Bobrovsky continued to stand tall. Number 1 star for me, Aleksander Barkov. To think that he only had 2 goals against Andrei Vasilevsky, and he doubled it tonight. One of them off that move that we spoke about earlier, and then on the power play for him, and almost had and was on hat trick watch. Hasn't had a hat trick in just over 2 years, and we spoke about it with how much he was taking away the middle of the ice. Him and Reinhart getting up getting up the ice incredibly fast for them, and just Aleksander Barkov was just on full display on a night like this, and continuing to show why he's the best 2-way center in the game. So your 3 stars, my friend.
So I guess my 3rd star, I'm going to give Tampa a little credit here.
Okay.
I think Vasilevsky is back.
Yeah.
I mean, his numbers already indicate that he's back. But in case you might have forgotten about how good Vasilevsky is, because, last year he was coming off the surgery. He had a rough year overall. I mean, he had a down year, even by regular goaltender standards. He just didn't have a good year at all. And this season he's been terrific. And I thought for a while in this game, it felt like, are we going to beat him? Are we going to actually beat him? We hit a post. Yeah, we scored a couple of goals, but he made a number of saves in this game, particularly in the beginning of the second period, even before the Panthers took the lead, where you just throw your arms up in the air and you say, I don't know. I mean, one chance that I wrote down is I think they had a 3-on-2 where Bennett had a nice shot, and then Erod, he had a chance at a rebound goal, and Vasilevsky just stones him. Just stones him. In the third period, Reinhart, he's got a chance to give Florida some insurance, go up 3-1 on a 2-on-1, and Reinhart kind of moves in a little bit too close to Vazzy because he was trying to see if he can make that cross-crease pass. But still, he put on a pretty good attempt there going short side, and Vazzy was having none of it. If that many goaltenders in the world, yeah, they let that one in because they're not covering the short side. But Vasilevsky stood tall, and he certainly gave Tampa a chance to win this game. I'll go an honorary star to the post. I mean, shout out to the post, the crossbar. Thank you very much. The post with the second left. Thank you very much. Hedman, thank you so much for hitting the post. We love the post sometimes. Second star I'll give to Barkov. He had the 2 goals. I thought he was terrific tonight, but the reason why he's not getting the number 1 star is because he tried to give the game away. I don't know what he was doing. You know, when the Panthers get that power play with a few minutes left in the game, I'm thinking to myself, all right, just don't give up a shorthanded chance.
Maybe you can go 2D on that one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think they should have gone 2D. I don't think they did. They did that against Edmonton where they went 2D.
Yes.
I don't know why they didn't do it this time. Maybe there was just too much time left, but there's 4 or 5 minutes. Like at that point, just put 2D out there just in case. I don't know what Barkov was. I mean, I know what he was doing, but
trying to get it to Reinhart cross.
By golly, man, you're up by 1 in the third period. I mean, just who cares? Just put it in deep. Just don't give up a short-handed chance. So that's why I can't give Barkov the first star, even though he had 2 goals. So my number 1 star has to be Sergei Bobrovsky because I thought he had himself a really nice game, and he made the saves when he had to make them. You know, I talk about this with my friends all the time when talking hockey. You know, we never like to blame the goaltender for a goal, particularly if it's one where it's a breakaway and it's off a turnover. And would I have blamed Bobrovsky for that? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, you're a goaltender. Sometimes you're going to have to make saves. Sometimes you're going to have to bail your team out when your team makes a mistake because it's going to happen during games. And Sergei Bobrovsky quite literally saves the game with a couple of minutes left, stoning Ryan McDonagh on a breakaway. So one goal allowed on 29 shots. I got to give him the first star of the night.
Yeah, and you gave when you gave Andrei Vasilevsky that 3rd star, and you were thinking just the back surgery for him. I mean, you think about not only was that the back surgery for Vasilevsky, but how many high danger shots that defense was giving up last year, and then the reacquisition of Ryan McDonagh bringing that identity back to the Tampa Bay Lightning that they were missing after they lost in the final against Colorado, and just showed that how much they needed to recommit to the back end. I mean, especially seeing now, especially with us seeing the Florida Panthers and how they won it, Vegas with how well their blue line was in the 2023 run, and just you think about how the Tampa Bay Lightning in this 8-game winning streak, Vasilevsky was 1.67 GAA. That's pretty decent. That's pretty good. More than good.
3 games, the broadcast said that he had stopped 97% of the shots going at him, and even tonight, I mean, he only stopped 93.1% of the shots that he faced.
Oh,
that's it. That's all he did. For those that don't know, if you save 93.1% of the time, guess what? Not only are you going to the Hockey Hall of Fame, you are the greatest goaltender of all time.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
But this leads me into the moment where we knew the game was won. Part of me wanted to go into the direction of when the Panthers stopped the double minor and there was only 4 seconds left and going into the third period. I thought that was a huge moment. But then, you know, looking back and thinking when the Tampa Bay Lightning brought it to a one goal deficit for them, I was thinking, okay, there's different moments for that you could think of, but really, you think of it just gives me flashbacks to just games 4 through 6 of the final, just the amount of breakaway stops. When you think of for the Panthers, it felt like every time there was a breakaway, it's like, okay, it's going in. you got to just try your best. And like you said earlier, you gotta have that stop where the goalie at least bails you out once, and that was the key on that shorthanded breakaway by Ryan McDonough. So that is my moment where I knew the game was won for the Panthers.
I'll be honest with you, Armando. I didn't have a single moment where I was like, yeah, this game's over.
Final buzzer?
I can't really answer it for you. Because so they go up 2-0, and I'm thinking, all right, this game's over. Like, we don't blow 2-goal leads most of the time. We really don't. Just doesn't usually happen. I don't care who we're playing. All right, we have that great 4-minute penalty kill. Terrific. And then Tampa buzzes, and they get a goal very early in the third period. 1-goal lead in the third period. Usually we win, but still we're going up against the Monstars over in Tampa with Kucherov and Point and Gensel, and everyone and their mother is on that team. So I didn't think the game was over at any point. Then they get a power play with a few minutes left, and I just had some sort of weird feeling that we were going to give up a shorthanded chance. That's why I kept saying, don't give up a shorthanded chance. Bob stands tall. All right, that was it, right? Nope. Because with 9 seconds left, why are we taking a penalty with 9 seconds left in the game? At our blue line? Why? I don't know who committed the penalty, but that's a dumb.
Lundell.
Yeah, you can't commit that penalty there, Lundell. You can't. There's good penalties to take, and there's bad penalties to take. Sometimes you take a penalty you really don't mean to take, like Nico Mikkola throwing the puck over the glass. There's just nothing you can do about it. Sometimes it's going to happen on you. I can't really fault a player for it. It happens. But Lundell, you got to be a little bit more disciplined than that. There's no reason to take a penalty with 9 seconds left in the game. It gives them a 6-on-4 with 9 seconds left. They got Victor Hedman and Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov and everyone, again, on their team. And, of course, they hit the post with the second left. So I thought we would win, but I didn't really know we were going to win until the clock hit 0.
What do you think of that offside with 20 seconds left? I couldn't tell.
Judging by the Tampa reaction, it was offside because you didn't see some massive protest from them. You could tell usually if there's a big protest, they'll be like, I
saw Hedman protesting, and then there was a point
a protest, but you didn't see the Tampa bench go nuts. You didn't see anyone else on the ice go nuts. It was just Hedman saying, I held it in because, we always think we held. As a defenseman in that situation, we always say we held in the puck.
Yeah.
We're never going to admit we were wrong. It's just not in our DNA. We're always going to hold that puck in no matter what. Puck could be 15 inches offside. It doesn't matter.
We're always going to argue in favor of our team.
Even if we're dead wrong.
Yeah.
That's just, like, I didn't really see it, and I don't know if they showed a replay of it, but
no replay.
Judging by the reaction, it didn't seem like everyone was up in arms about it, so I'm pretty sure it was offside.
Yeah, I with me not being able to tell, part of me was just thinking about, maybe the Panthers caught a break. I'll have to go watch it again just to see what if it was. But hey, it didn't end up mattering. The Panthers got the 2 points. But before all of this happened with the game and Seth Jones making his Panthers debut, Bill Zito and Seth Jones actually spoke to the media after morning skate. We're going to discuss what they spoke about publicly and also just our overall feelings on Seth Jones' debut. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Third and final segment here on this Tuesday, March 4th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, here with Jackson Holzer, South Florida native and host of Locked On Syracuse here. And Jackson, man, I spoke about this pre-recording, but started recording Monday's episode around 8:45, so I knew that Seth Jones was going to speak to the media, but obviously wanted to get that show out before everything, just to give my reaction to the whole thing. And Seth Jones makes his debut, 22 minutes and 56 seconds, 3 shots on goal, 55% Corsi 4. Spencer Knight, by the way, starting for the Chicago Blackhawks, wearing his Florida Panthers mask, by the way. So
he had a good day, by the way.
Shine on
41 of 42.
Wow, amazing. Shine on you, crazy diamond, Spencer Knight. But Marisa spoke very honestly just about Seth Jones fitting the now, but also a very insightful answer on just how Spencer Knight is going to grow together with that team in Chicago. I mean, there's still a few defensemen that are going to make their way to the Blackhawks in the future, like one of them, like being Artem Levshinov, for them, a highly regarded pick for them. So maybe that's a big opportunity for the Hawks to continue to grow. And, it's going to be some ups and downs for him, but hey, we wish the best for him. But even Maurice speaking about Seth Jones and just now, right now he's on power play 2. I would think that eventually it's going to upgrade to power play 1. But you also think about for him, yeah, outside of that mistake that led to the Mikkola cross-check penalty, I thought he was I was looking to pinpoint at just the amount of him on the board battles and him getting that first pass out, and I'm just thinking, this is something that is valuable for the Panthers, and just how they're able to, even though they're not necessarily run and gun, it could still help them with just continuing to generate speed, especially if that top line is on, and especially with how great Barkov is on give and goes.
I really liked his game tonight. He had that one no, which is the strong side pinch we talked about in the beginning of the show. He had one flashy moment that was, I believe, in the second period where he held the puck in. He made a nice read on it, and he cut in on Vasilevsky, got himself a nice chance. But, Vasilevsky's Vasilevsky, so he made that save look pretty easy on him. Also, he's a minutes eater. That's the thing about Seth Jones. He just plays so much. And tonight, he played a lot again. I think you mentioned it. I'm looking at the stats right now. It's nice to know that he can play that amount of minutes, which was, I believe, about 23. Yeah, 22:56 he played tonight. The only reason why he played that much is because he's playing penalty kill.
Yeah.
And we took so many penalties.
Yeah.
And the bottom pair didn't really play a whole lot. Kulikov and Schmidt barely played 10 to 15 minutes. They didn't. They were both under 14 minutes of ice time tonight. But it's nice to have a guy like Seth Jones back there. I thought he was really good. He was boring, to be quite honest with you. And boring is
what you want.
exactly what you want. Like, that's what you – it's kind of like a cornerback in football. Like, you just don't want to hear their name called.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless it's an interception. That's it. That's the only time you want to hear a cornerback called. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but, take Xavier Howard's still on the team, right?
No, he's been gone.
I don't know who's on the Miami Dolphins.
Jalen Ramsey is one of the
Jalen Ramsey, sure. The only time you want to hear Jalen Ramsey's number called or him called is when he makes either a great pass defense or he has an interception. Other than that, if he doesn't get his name called at all, it's great. And that's what I felt with Seth Jones tonight. Like, if you were really intently watching, he played well. If you weren't really going to notice him all that much, which is a good thing. So I like him. And you know what? We better learn to like him anyway, because he's going to be here for 5.5 years.
Yeah. And also was on the ice on that 4-on-4 situation when the Panthers committed the penalty just less than a minute into their power play, with Ekblad getting that boarding call. A little bit of with slow motion, I'm just thinking, is maybe a little bit of a dive, but at the same time, Ekblad did extend the forearm there when the puck was away. Yeah, so I'm not one I'm going to complain too much about. But then Seth Jones took those 4-on-4 minutes, and hey, getting some minutes with Gustav Forsling during that time. So hey, you're going to get those opportunities with different guys, and who knows, even whatever the future
insurance potentially. Just saying,
exactly.
He's insurance.
Exactly. That's why you make a deal like this for Bill Zito. And speaking of Bill Zito, there was one quote that Zito said, not during the media availability after morning skate, but to Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic. He said, quote, "I think it's more of a function of who's available and does it help us without being disruptive. We have our cake, it's made, but this is icing on the top and it works really well." Close quote. And I think about this not only with major moves, but with minor moves. I mean, you think of just even last year, Vladimir Tarasenko, a little compliment on the third line to help Eetu Luostarinen and Anton Lundell. Kyle Okposo, even if he wasn't playing every single night last year, that was a guy in the locker room who's not gonna who's going to be a little bit of a guy who's going to up the pulse of the team, and someone obviously that you want to fight for. And for all the downs that Seth Jones has been through for the last 5 years in Chicago, which, by the way, a funny quote that he said was he left his parka in Chicago based on the warm weather here. But still, it's a guy that you want to at least help win, even though he's still years away from even hanging up the skates as a guy who's in his prime.
There's one part of that quote that's really important that Bill Zito said. Who's available? Who's available, right? When we were talking about how the Panthers need a right shot, middle to top pairing defenseman caliber player. And sometimes I would bring up Erik Karlsson. Other times I would bring up Seth Jones. In fact, I actually tweeted it out when Elliot Freeman kind of hinted at that Florida's maybe looking at something big, that it was one of those two guys that they were probably going to target. And, we got a lot of backlash, or at least I did, because people were like, we don't really like Seth Jones. Who's available? Present me an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather Seth Jones or Erik Karlsson? I'll tell you my answer right now is Seth Jones.
Yeah.
Who else is out there that is a right shot defenseman that you really want? You want to give up a first-round pick for a rental and Henry Jokiharju? Is that what you want to do? Really?
Not
That's that's not what we want. Who's available? Seth Jones was out there. He's disgruntled in Chicago. We know he's a good player. He's just stuck on a crappy team. Let's put him in Florida, and he's probably going to do well. And, well, we're one game in, but he did really well. And 5-on-5, by the way, Armando, he had a 79% like controlling the chances. If you go look on Money Puck, that's like the simpler way to say it. That was second on the team.
Outstanding.
He was good.
Outstanding. And even going back to who's available, and this quote says without being disruptive, and it spoke about the cake, but even this quote can even go back to 2022 about who is available relating to Matthew Tkachuk in that trade, because late into free agency, that was when he became available, and the Panthers were already starting to make their moves at the time. Obviously, this is a little different here with who is available, and it's just the opportunity to pounce. And I forget who mentioned this, but you think about, I think it was Frank Saravelli, about the recent Stanley Cup champions, Vegas, Tampa Bay, Colorado. What do they all have in common?
They make big moves.
They go for it. Tomas Hertl last year for Vegas. I know they haven't won the cup with Tomas Hertl being traded there, and San Jose is going to retain money for a long time. But even then, they said that team is going into a long rebuild. He doesn't fit with what their rebuild is going to be. Let's get him here. So that's another thing in regarding that you're not going to be satisfied. And even to think that some of the conversation was like, okay, they won a cup, we can be happy, we can die, whatever, and we'll be okay. But the fact that you have a little taste of that and you don't want to go into another offseason not winning it, that just goes to show for these front offices of just the wiring of when they've experienced something before, and it's like we want to continue being at the top. If you want to beat us, come get us, because we are going to take the swings.
You don't want to be complacent. Like, yeah, sure, we saw one cup, and if that's how it is and that's how it ultimately ends, so be it. We got one, and it's definitely better than zero. But at the end of the day, the Florida Panthers are in this moment of time where we're going to look back and say, this is the good old days. Like, we are in the golden age of Florida Panthers hockey. Pretty much everyone on the roster that is locked up long-term is in their primes. Pretty much everyone is in their primes. Go down the list of everyone long-term. Or they're entering their prime, like Anton Lundell. Or they're a really young player who you know is going to get extended in Mackie Samoskevich this offseason. probably to a long-term deal. That would be smart to do, by the way. Get a little cheeky there. You might have to overpay a little bit in the short term, but long-term it's going to help you. 8-year deal for Mackey. I'm just saying. But we're in the golden age now. And you have to take advantage of when you're in the golden age, because there will come a time where the Florida Panthers are not good anymore. It will happen. You think it lasts forever? It doesn't. The Detroit Red Wings made the playoffs for 25 straight years. Now it's been, 8 years since they've made the playoffs again? The Chicago Blackhawks were a dynasty. They won 3 cups in 5 years. Guess what? They stink now, right? They just traded Seth Jones away.
But they will take those 3 cups.
But guess what? You look up in the rafters when you go to Chicago and you're like, oh, wow, I remember those 3 cups.
Yep.
I remember all the memories. And so we're Florida Panthers fans. In 10, 15 years, they might stink, but we could go look back and look at the rafters and be like, wow, look at all these cups that we have. Look at all these conference finals that we have. Look at all the jersey retirements that we're going to have on this team. There's probably 3 or 4 guys on the roster right now that we know are going to get their number retired. This is the golden age. So take advantage of when you're in this golden age, because it doesn't come around really often.
Yeah. And very, very, very exciting. And the fact that the Panthers will have 2 days in between now and their next game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are going to be buyers at the deadline.
I'll be there, by the way. I'm going to go get that game.
Nice. Well, we should expect another move. Not as big of a move as we saw over the weekend, but just adding to the depth with Matthew Tkachuk officially on LTIR, and then Bill Zito even saying publicly that it's unlikely that he'll return for the rest of the regular season. And another move with the Panthers likely taking the full salary, because they can now. We'll say, hey, this is an addition that they could possibly put to their bottom 6 forwards, maybe another 4th line center for them that could kill penalties and put them alongside with Jesper Boquist on the PK. So that is one thing that I'm looking for the Panthers to do as far as their next move. So we'll see. And I'm very excited for these next 2 days. I'll be glued to X to see what the national reporters will possibly break, and just less than a few days until the deadline. So Jackson, I want to thank you so much for joining me on another edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as the Panthers come off a 2-1 win in Seth Jones' debut with the Florida Panthers, and are now really on their way, hopefully, to home ice in round 1. Tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Sure. My personal Twitter is at JacksonH_52. And I'm also the host of Locked On Syracuse. And you can find me on Twitter at LO_Syracuse.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And hope to see you soon.
Thank you. And let's see what they do at the deadline.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jackson Holzer, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.